Nottinghamshire has 20-minute delays expected to clear shortly after 9:40. The M32 southbound from M4 to Junction 3 in Bristol is busy. Lane closures on the M25 clockwise between junctions 5 and 6 in Surrey due to broken down vehicles, with 2 lanes closed. And on the trains, Great Western Railway is disrupted between Romsey and Southampton Central, and Greater Anglia between Ingatestone and Sheffield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Excuse me. It's 9:30 on Tuesday, the 19th of May, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Labour Party backs Andy Burnham. What a surprise.
Britain has been on the wrong path. 40 years. 40 years on the wrong path.
New Labour Party polling of members puts Burnham clear front-runner in a potential leadership race. Wedge streeting, though, he's even less popular than the Prime Minister. That's saying something.
Is your premiership now over?
No, but we were elected into office by millions of people to bring about change in this country.
And yet, Downing Street is defiant. The PM insists he will not walk away, as this morning his new-look cabinet meets for the first time.
And some grim breaking news. The rate of UK unemployment has risen to 5%, but youth unemployment has hit an 11-year high of 16%. How do we get our young people into the workplace?
Your viewers will have all experienced dodgy vape shops, dodgy barber shops, dodgy nail bars, and those often have been homes for serious organised criminality.
A war on retail crime. A new specialist task force will tackle dodgy high street shops linked to money laundering and illegal working.
And pay delay is punished. The government says it will crack down on big firms who put off paying what they owe to small businesses.
Both suspects in this case are deceased. We have 3 confirmed adults that are deceased at the Islamic Center.
Breaking news overnight, 2 teenage attackers fatally shoot 3 men at a mosque in San Diego before taking their own lives. We'll have the latest.
And 2 women claim they were raped during the filming of one of Channel 4's biggest shows, Married at First Sight UK, which was still broadcast. A review is underway.
And a North Sea standoff. Today, the Tories launch a vote to revive North Sea drilling after the government bans new licences in the King's Speech.
as some of us suspected, Mr West Streeting isn't half as popular as he thinks he is, because that poll of Labour Party members, the people who have to vote in the inevitable leadership contest, puts him on a mere 4%, way behind Sir Keir Starmer, who would massacre him in any leadership contest.
It is extraordinary, and it shows the difficulty that Labour MPs face, because even if he or somebody else is popular amongst them as the Parliamentary Labour Party, if the members don't like them, they're not going to vote for them. It's exactly the same with the Conservative Party. Because it didn't used to be the case, did it? Until I think the 70s or 80s, members didn't get a say.
That's right.
And MPs just chose who they thought. I wonder which is better.
It was William Hague's party that changed it.
Oh, that's
and that was after 97. So, and of course Burnham, the clear front runner in those votes. And of course Burnham, who's now, we may not agree on it, Miriam, but appears to have changed his mind on rejoining the European Union.
I think it's possible to hold two views at once. One, that you'd like something to happen in the long term.
Speaks a former MP.
Well, we're in a democracy. You have to accept that some of your views aren't popular and never happen, but that doesn't mean you can't hold them. Well, diversity, Andrew.
As ever, we want to hear what you think. Send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. The top story this morning at 9:30. The government is setting up a new £30 million task force to tackle organised crime gangs operating using so-called dodgy shops on Britain's high streets. Police units will target businesses suspected of being used for money laundering, illegal immigration networks and criminal gangs. The Department for Culture, Media and Sport says the rape claims levelled at the Channel 4 show Married at First Sight are serious. It comes after the BBC's Panorama revealed two women who'd taken part in the show made the allegations during filming. The broadcaster has removed previous seasons of the show from its platforms and launched an external review. Donald Trump has revealed the US was planning to launch an attack on Iran today, but says he will now hold off at the request of his Gulf allies. The president says serious negotiations are underway, but added that he will prepare to launch a full-scale assault if an agreement isn't reached. And health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo say the number of deaths as a result of Ebola has risen to more than 130. Cases are now being found across wider parts of the region. The World Health Organization says it's trying to limit the spread by encouraging safe burials. Those are the top stories this half hour. A full roundup at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So this is the first survey of Labour Party members. Remember, in a Labour leadership contest, MPs, trade unionists and party members choose who the party candidate, who the leader is. The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, would beat Sir Keir Starmer in a head-to-head leadership contest with almost 60% favouring Burnham. That's massive,
That's
isn't
quite categorical, isn't it? Yeah. So when they were asked to rate potential leadership candidates, Burnham was the first choice, Starmer came in second, Angela Rayner third, and Streeting in a fourth place.
On a mere 4%. I'm absolutely adamant that man has not got the 81 MPs required to put his name on the ballot paper, because if he had them, he's still saying he has, he would have published them by now, which would have given him momentum and put him as the front.
Do you think, so because he came out and said he wanted a long leadership race so that all the best players could be on the pitch, meaning Andy Burnham, you think he said that because he didn't have the numbers, but it makes him look magnanimous?
Absolutely, absolutely. However, Starmer, as I thought, will have to be dragged screaming and shouting out of number 10. He says he's not walking away, it's keep calm and carry on. And, of course, we've got Cabinet this morning and they're talking about everyday government.
Yeah.
They should be talking about unemployment, actually, because it's at 5%.
Yes.
16% of 16 to 24-year-olds have no work. That is a shocking figure.
It is. And we always used to pride ourselves on having much lower youth unemployment rates than France and Spain, but we've overtaken them now.
I know.
So we're going to be digging into that later and why that might be.
Yeah.
But we're going to stick with this interesting polling for now. And joining us is the pollster and Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde, Sir John Curtis. Sir John, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's start with this polling on the Labour membership, which shows Andy Burnham far and away the favourite. But nevertheless, Keir Starmer still in the mid-30%. He hasn't lost all support amongst the membership.
No, he certainly hasn't. I mean, it's clear from this poll that there's still a degree of regard for Keir Starmer among the membership. So although 2/3 of them said that they think he should stand down at some point before the next general election in 2029, only 1/3 said that they necessarily thought he should stand down right away. So, yes, and certainly, I mean, the polling last week, there was also of Labour members done by Survation, suggested that Keir Starmer would certainly beat Wes Streeting, who, as you have already indicated, is deeply unpopular amongst the Labour membership. And in fact, it's not even clear that Angela Rayner will be guaranteed to defeat him. It just emphasises the extent to which Keir Starmer's fate probably rests on the outcome in Makerfield. If Andrew Burnham can win, I don't think we have any doubts that he can get the 81 nominations amongst MPs. And it's clear from this polling, it was clear from last week's polling, that Mr. Burnham is well ahead of Keir Starmer in the popularity contest between the two of them. But on the other hand, if Andrew Burnham doesn't make it, the Labour Party will find itself still in a leadership crisis, and where, although perhaps the majority of Labour MPs, at least in private, think that Keir Starmer should go, whether or not there is anybody else around who can be sure of beating him amongst the membership, that at the moment at least is still uncertain.
John, have you ever known a by-election where people are being urged by the governing party to vote for a candidate, Andy Burnham, who wants to effectively reverse everything, a lot of what this government is doing, and replace the Prime Minister? Have you ever known a by-election like this?
No, of course not. The nearest we have, of course, is the by-election in 1963 in Perthshire, when after Sir Alec Douglas-Home had been nominated by the so-called Conservative Magic Circle to replace Harold Macmillan as Prime Minister. Macmillan nominally said he was leaving because of health reasons, but there were also feelings that he was actually being pushed out. But of course, he was at that stage Lord Home of the House of Lords, so he resigned from the House of Lords, but needed a seat in the Commons. But of course, in those days, a Tory standing in Perthshire was more or less guaranteed to win. Of course, not true these days. But still, yes, this by-election is remarkable in the sense that, yes, we've got somebody who, if they stand, may well also indeed become Prime Minister, but not with at least the official acquiescence of the incumbent, but rather with the incumbent being very clear that they don't wish to leave.
And often, I bow to your experience, Sir John, but my understanding is that voters sometimes resent what they regard as an unnecessary by-election. This is unnecessary. They picked their MP 2 years ago. There's going to be a potentially unnecessary mayoral election in Greater Manchester, which could hurt the Labour candidate, Andy Burnham.
Yes, it's true. Certainly there was a very famous occasion in Ashfield back in the 1970s, 1980s, when David Marquand resigned as the MP to go and work in the European Commission alongside Roy Jenkins. And there was a marked movement away from the Labour Party. The Labour Party actually lost the by-election. So occasionally that's true. Of course, against that on the other side, and frankly, the only reason why, given what happened in this constituency in the local elections when Reform were at nearly 50% and Labour were at around 25%, the only reason why we might even contemplate Labour being able to win this by-election in this particular constituency at this particular point in time is because of the known personal popularity of Mr. Burnham in the Manchester mayoral election not long before the general election. He got 63% of the vote across the whole area. in the general election, Labour got 43%. Now, the question is just how much of that personal popularity will translate into this constituency, which is not a million miles away from where Mr. Burnham lives at this particular point in time and in these circumstances. And that is the big unknown. And frankly, we're all waiting for the first opinion poll or two, assuming that Mr. Burnham does become the candidate, because, of course, yet he's not been nominated, to see whether or not, indeed, he does have a competitive chance.
Now, so John, another question asked in this YouGov poll, which has been published in The Guardian, was whether Labour members believe that the party is likely to win the next election with Burnham as leader or Starmer. And overwhelmingly, the Labour members believe that Labour could win again with Burnham in charge, but not with Starmer. Do you think they're being over-optimistic? Labour on 17% in the polls. Could Andy Burnham turn it round enough to win another majority?
Well, I think the answer to is that I'm not sure that they're being unduly pessimistic about their chances under their current leader. And I mean, the truth is that, it's been very clear that Mr. Burnham is popular alongside the Labour Party. It is clear also, by the way, if you look at his popularity amongst Labour voters in 2024, or indeed the public in general. Andy Burnham is the one Labour politician that seems to be able to reach parts of the electorate that other politicians can't reach. But of course, at the end of the day, the crucial question is, if he does become Prime Minister, how well does he do the job? How successful is he in turning around the policy challenges meeting the Labour government, particularly to do with the economy, to do with the health service? Now, he's got ideas, partly as a result of his experience in Manchester, about how he might be able to do things more effectively. But the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. But I guess, at least if Mr. Burnham does become leader, and given his manifest popularity, at least it throws the jigsaw puzzles back up in the air. But whether they'll land down in the place the Labour Party is hoping, well, maybe we'll find out in 2 or 3 years' time if he does become Prime Minister.
I just want to say finally to you, Sir John, I'm struck that there was another very popular mayor who became Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, very popular mayor of London, became Prime Minister. That went well.
It did for 2 years. It did, Andrew, for 2 years. For 2 years, the Conservative Party was never behind the Labour Party in the opinion polls, which is very unusual for a government in office. But of course, as we all knew, there was sometimes Mr. Johnson's relationship with the truth was not always as strong as we might anticipate. And yes, in the end, it ended in tears. But, Boris Johnson was a very effective campaigner. He was the only reason why he was able to remain mayor of London in a city that was becoming increasingly pro-Labour. He managed to win the Conservatives a general election that perhaps they wouldn't have otherwise been able to win. But yeah, sure, they had other weaknesses, which in the end proved to be his undoing. But I think to suggest that the Johnson experience indicates that a party is necessarily stupid in changing their leader. I don't think that argument works.
All right, that's Sir John Curtis, who is Professor of Politics at the University of Strathclyde. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, Boris was so popular as mayor of London, wasn't he?
I know.
The most popular politician in Britain, and I would say Andy Burnham is currently the most popular.
I think maybe the lesson that Burnham could learn from that is, if he does win the by-election, if he does become Labour leader, to then hold a general election when he's riding high in the polls.
Because
but he will become unpopular over time.
Because look, he's not tarnished by anything this government has done, because he's not been part of Labour front bench since 2017.
Do you think people, Andrew, are just desperate for some hope of the deadlock being changed? And of course, there's loads of criticism of Andy Burnham, huge, about him changing his mind and whether or not he is responsible for the growth in Manchester. But I think people are just desperate for something to break the deadlock. And we aren't going to have another general election for 3 years, or at least that's not what we're predicted to have. And people just want something new.
Yeah, and, well, exactly. As Sir John Curtis rightly says, the first opinion poll from that by-election, Makerfield,
will be very interesting.
And we'll get the NEC confirmation any time soon that Burnham is the candidate. Wouldn't it be a hoot if they didn't pick him?
Yes, or if the local Labour Party, maybe they've got another plumber up their sleeve.
That would be so
better
funny.
than Burnham.
They say, "No, we don't want this carpetbagger. We'll have a local Labour councillor or something."
I was reading this morning that there is a kind of parallel from history to this by-election, which is when Tony Benn stood in a Chesterfield by-election, having lost his seat, to try and get back in. And Neil Kinnock was kind of forced to support support him, even though he didn't want the leadership rival. But Ben did win the by-election, but he didn't challenge Kinnock for the leadership. So
no,
let's see.
Well, still ahead this morning, Westminster hosts the Brexit Unleashed conference, reminding everyone of the Brexit benefits of Brexit, because, of course, there are some. Up next.
Find out how the government is tackling those dodgy-looking nail salons or barbers on your high street.
There are 4 nail clinics, salons, whatever you call them, in about a quarter-mile stretch near where I live. 4.
You're spoilt for choice.
I do my own. I'm very dumb. I'm a typical bloke, do my own. That's why this looks so, look, such a mess.
I know.
But
I don't
first,
bother.
you want some holiday, son? Here's the forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, you heading away for the next few days? Well, there's high pressure dominating for the Canary Islands as well as Spain and France. So plenty of sunshine here for the next few days. Temperatures climbing towards 20 degrees across much of Portugal and Spain. Some showers affecting Italy as well as parts of Greece through the latter part of this week. Could turn quite heavy actually across parts of Greece. There's a risk of thunderstorms through Thursday and Friday. But for most of us, plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We should be almost banned.
Do you really?
I really do, because and then you just let the listener or the viewer find their own a take on it and their own opinion about it.
Right.
I really don't like it. At Olympic Games. I really don't like the sort of cheerleading and showboating and the we this, we that, we the other.
So you're not the USA.
I'm sorry.
That much
No, it's Britain. Britain are third in the medals table. Not we are third in the medals table.
Right.
I think.
OK. And how does everybody react to that? Is everybody... Because I must admit, I do quite like the we thing.
I don't.
OK. Tell me about favourite sporting events, because I'd imagine London 2012 must be the greatest thing you've been involved in, right?
Yeah, it absolutely was. I mean, I've been very lucky across, a whole load of things. I mean, one of my... You always remember the things, you always remember the first time. To be in the Olympics in Seoul in '88. Yeah. And to see Ben Johnson win the 100 metres, and then the furore off the back of that, when with the possible exception of Lance Armstrong, the biggest drug scandal in the history of sport. I mean, that was an amazing.
So were you covering that at the time, that race
for BBC Radio? Yeah.
So at what point did you know about this? Because now it's known as the dirtiest race of all time, isn't it? But at the time, this man had broken the world record. He was the greatest sprinter anybody had ever seen, and it was such a huge story.
The most amazing thing about it was I can't remember how big the crowd was, but in my head it was like 100,000.
Yeah.
And when he crossed the line and you saw on the electronic scoreboard what time he'd done, you've never heard 100,000 people be so quiet and then be so loud, because the reaction was just... that's not possible. A bit like, running under 2 hours for a marathon.
Yeah.
And then, of course, so we all thought this is just extraordinary and beyond belief.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, this is welcome and overdue. The government is launching what it calls a crackdown on what we all know are dodgy shops, which we suspect are linked to organised crime and people smuggling. Just think barber shops and nail salons.
And these vape shops now.
And the vape shops, yeah.
New police units will target businesses suspected of being used for money laundering, illegal immigration networks and criminal gangs.
Well, earlier on, GB News Security Minister, on GB News, the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, said this.
Your viewers will have all experienced dodgy vape shops, dodgy barber shops, dodgy nail bars. And those often have been homes for serious organised criminality.
Well, joining us now is Reform UK's police and crime advisor, Colin Sutton. Colin, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on GB News. Do you welcome this crackdown by the government?
If it happens, yes, I will. I think we're in the middle of a government which tends to govern by slogan or headline, and you know, you throw in the word crackdown and some sort of chummy words like dodgy and say, yes, we're going to do this, and put in some figures of money and numbers of officers. Let's see if it happens, because we all know, I think, from wherever we live, that this is a real issue, and you don't have to be a financial investigator to understand that you know, a town near me that's got about 4,000 adult males has 8 barbershops. Well, their hair doesn't look that nice all the time. You know, there's nobody in them. But we'll have to see if it happens. A lot of this money that's being laundered, because I think that's what they are. They tend to be cash services or cash shops where there's little need for receipts or paperwork to show how much money has gone through. So you can actually push money through and show that it's clean money very easily. Where's that money coming from? A substantial amount of it is coming from the illegal immigration trade, and we know this, and the BBC survey and operation found this. When we stop that, then maybe we can start stopping people exploiting these shops and blighting our high streets, really, because our traditional shops find it difficult in the current economic climate to carry on, but yet these things are proliferating because people are making money from illegal means and using these to launder it, and our high streets are dying.
And Colin, one of the most disturbing parts of the documentary that the BBC did was the suggestion that some of these shops are being used to launder money to pay the people smugglers to get people crossing the channel illegally. So it's almost a double whammy of illegality.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is, Andrew, with any kind of illegal activity, it will continue until such time as the chance of being caught and the penalty for being caught outweigh the riches and the gains to be made by the activity. And so, you know, there does need to be work on this, but it needs to happen. It's not just another slogan like "smash the gangs." You know, it's something that we need to see real things happening and raids taking place and people being prosecuted and people being jailed for this, and then we might start to see it come down. I notice in the plan, the £6 million promise for trading standards. I've worked in trading standards after I left the police on a number of occasions, and it is a service which is vitally important, but is so desperately underfunded. £6 million actually won't scratch the surface with it, and yet that's the service we're relying on to intercept these counterfeit vapes, counterfeit tobacco and other illegal items such as that. So it does need to be a rounded sort of holistic plan. But the bottom line is we need to make sure that the advantages and the gains that these people are able to get from operating these shops are outweighed by the risk of them spending a long time in prison.
Colin, the Centre for Social Justice have done quite a lot of work on this, and they tweeted this morning that they welcome the effort to crack down on these dodgy high street shops. But actually, at the root of this, trading standards need stronger powers to shut the shops down. And we've also heard from the professional body of trading standards officers that they're actually worried about their own safety because there's so much organised criminal gangs behind this. Would you agree with both of those ideas?
Yeah, I would to a degree. You know, I'm not a great one for saying we need powers. I tend to think that most things that we don't want to happen are illegal already, and it's actually a question of enforcing the existing powers. We need fewer laws, not more laws. But just, you know, anecdotally, 10 or more years ago when I was working for social services, for trading standards, we went and did a raid on one of these shops selling dodgy tobacco, and it was the first and only time in my life that I was required to wear a stab vest. I never did while I was in the police, but the insistence was that because of the danger in going into these places, that we should kit up appropriately for it, and that was probably 10, 12 years ago. So there is a real risk to them, and as I said, they are desperately underfunded services for the vital tool that they are in keeping us all safe.
Well, Colin Sutton, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, I wish the crackdown well. I mean, it's not just about crime. They ruin the high street.
They do. They absolutely do.
I mean, how many vapes do you need?
Exactly. Yeah, and also these vape shops I think they're appalling because they're a mecca for young people.
That's right, and they're selling it to young children.
Yeah, young people who we know don't get to have jobs either.
Absolutely.
Still ahead, Britain's jobless rate has got even worse and unemployment rate has, for young people, hit a record 11-year high. We'll look at why.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. The A77 northbound Bogend off-slip is closed today for roadworks. On the A4076 westbound, a broken-down vehicle causes delays. M25 clockwise between junctions. 25 and 26 has one lane closed. Normal conditions expected shortly after 10. Further on the M25 between junctions 5 and 6, 2 lanes are shut due to another broken down vehicle, resolved around 10:30. And on the trains, South Western Railway and Greater Anglia services are disrupted between Ingatestone and Shenfield. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday the 19th of May. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Guess what? The Labour Party backs Andy Burnham.
Britain has been on the wrong path. 40 years on the wrong path.
Well, a new poll of Labour Party members puts Andy Burnham as the clear front-runner in a potential leadership race. West Streeting Low slightly less popular than the PM.
Is your premiership now over?
No, but we were elected into office by millions of people to bring about change in this country.
Downing Street Defiant, the Prime Minister says he's going nowhere. His new look cabinet is meeting as we speak.
David Lammy says better than last week as his colleagues join him to sit with Keir Starmer around the cabinet table. What's different now is that Keir Starmer is auditioning to stay on as Prime Minister.
Well, some breaking news this morning. The rate of UK unemployment has risen to 5%. Meanwhile, youth employment hits an 11-year high. So how do we get young Brits working again?
Your viewers will have all experienced dodgy vape shops, dodgy barber shops, dodgy nail bars. And those often have been homes for serious organised criminality.
A new specialist task force is to tackle those dodgy high street shops. You've seen them all, the barber shops, the nail bars, to money laundering and illegal migration.
And 2 women claim that they were raped during the filming of one of Channel 4's biggest shows, Married at First Sight UK, as an external review is launched.
And a big stand-up over North Sea oil. Today, the Tories are launching a vote to revive North Sea drilling after the government, in the form of Ed Miliband, the Net Zero Secretary, has banned all new licences.
And Brexit unleashed. Today, prominent Brexiteers are attending a conference in Westminster to highlight the benefits of leaving the EU. We'll be checking in there soon. Andrew, it's nearly 10 years since that Brexit vote, and yet this week, the headlines again are full of discussion about whether or not we should rejoin the EU, what are the benefits of Brexit, even the wheels coming off the Brexit bus, which we covered yesterday.
And it's a conversation that Mr Andy Burnham doesn't want to have because of his position in September when he said he hoped in his lifetime he would rejoin. On Sunday or Saturday, when he was questioned about it, he said there's a long-term case for it. He's now realised this is going to damage his chances in the Makerfield by-election, which voted 65% to leave. He now says, out the question.
Yeah, isn't it extraordinary? People are going to be saying all the way through, oh, we must focus on local issues in this by-election. But everybody knows that it's about so much more than that. It's about who becomes the next Prime Minister.
And the big issue on the doorstep in Makerfield, immigration. And I would say it's the big issue probably in most constituencies in the country now. Legal migration is too high and illegal migration is out of control.
I think Andy Burnham really needs to make a big speech about immigration because, of course, as a Metro Mayor, as a Mayor of Manchester, immigration is not in his control. Whoever lives in Manchester, but he needs to set out what he thinks about indefinite leave to remain, the small boats. I think that's absolutely crucial.
Because you can be quite certain Reform UK will be talking about it all
Nothing else, absolutely. Well, maybe he'll take our advice. Who knows? Well, we'd love to know what you think. Send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom at just after 10 o'clock. Well, the top story this hour, a new specialist law enforcement unit is being set up to target criminal gangs operating from so-called dodgy shops on Britain's high streets. The government says some convenience stores, vape retailers, takeaways and American candy shops are all being used as fronts for organised crime, money laundering and people smuggling networks. The £20 million crackdown will include a new National Crime Agency cell, 75 extra police officers and more funding for trading standards. The Home Office says thousands of businesses could be raided with hundreds of arrests and millions in dirty cash seized. But the Conservatives, among other opposition parties, say 75 officers is nowhere near enough to fix crime and antisocial behaviour on the high street. Serious rape and sexual misconduct allegations linked to Married at First Sight are now facing government and regulator scrutiny. A BBC Panorama investigation heard claims from 2 women who say they were raped during filming, while a third says she experienced a non-consensual sex act. Channel 4 has now removed all episodes from its streaming and broadcast services and has launched an external review into welfare on the show. The production company responsible for the programme says its welfare system was gold standard and that it acted appropriately. The government says the allegations must be investigated in full and there must be consequences for any criminality or wrongdoing. Donald Trump has said he's held off a planned military attack on Iran today after leaders from Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates asked for more time. The president says serious negotiations are now taking place and claims a deal could be reached that is very acceptable to the United States. But he's still warning America is ready to launch a full, large-scale assault on Iran at a moment's notice if no acceptable deal is agreed. Well, that comes as the government here says the world could be heading towards a major food crisis if the Strait of Hormuz remains blocked. At an international aid summit in London, Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper is expected to warn that disrupted fertiliser supplies could trigger weaker harvests and soaring food prices worldwide. The World Food Programme estimates up to 45 million people could fall into acute food insecurity if the conflict continues. The Conservatives are attempting to force a parliamentary vote on Labour's plans to stop issuing new oil and gas licences. Shadow ministers claim the policy risks making Britain more dependent on foreign energy during a global crisis. But the government insists that new drilling will not lower bills or improve the energy security. Health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo say the number of deaths as a result of Ebola has now risen to at least 131. Cases are now being found across wider parts of the region. And the World Health Organization says it is trying to limit the spread by encouraging safe burials. And here, victims and families affected by the infected blood scandal are gathering at St Paul's Cathedral today for a national memorial service. More than 30,000 people were infected with HIV and hepatitis after receiving contaminated blood products between the 1970s and 90s. Campaigners say compensation payments are still far too low, despite more than £2 billion already being paid out. Those are the latest headlines for now. Plenty more still to come right here with Andrew and Miriam.
Hello and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
Well, that new survey of Labour members showing the Mayor of Greater Manchester is the runaway favourite and leader choice of party members to beat Sir Keir Starmer in a head-to-head contest, just coming in at just under 60%.
Wow. Overwhelming. Well, when asked to rate potential leadership candidates, Burnham was the first choice, Starmer came in second, Angela Rayner third, and Streeting a sorry fourth. And we did say we were going to reveal who got 0%.
We are. Al Khan is the defence minister who famously did 4 or 5 tours of Afghanistan, scaled Mount Everest. He's a sort of action man hero. He's only been an MP for 2 years. He is on the grand total of 0% in this poll. So if you're listening, Mr. Carnes, A, we'd love you to come on GB News to talk to us, but secondly, do yourself a favour, mate, and forget it.
Well, he was called a dark horse. So dark you can't see him.
I think we should call him a dark donkey. That probably ruins any chance of getting him on.
He's welcome to come on for a right of reply. But the Prime Minister insists he will not walk away, and it's very much keep calm and carry on in Downing Street.
And that's where our political editor, Christopher Hope, is right now. Christopher, the new Cabinet is in there, including the new Health Secretary, James Murray, who was Chief Secretary to the Treasury. They seemed a bit more chipper than they did this time last week.
Yeah, they certainly are. David Lammy's already inside. He was one of the first to arrive, and he said to reporters that it's a better week than last week. The Cabinet now are meeting around the table with the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. In many ways, it's Sir Keir Starmer who's got to try and impress them on his ability to stay on. He told reporters yesterday he wants to fight the next election. He wants to be leader for 10 years. He seemed a bit chipper and smiling, as though some form of weight was off his shoulders. Maybe it's the fact that he's got one foot on the beach in terms of football transfer parlance. Maybe he thinks he won't be the PM by Christmas, or maybe he actually thinks here's a chance to reboot my premiership, to be the person who can take on maybe Andy Burnham, take on these ideas of the prince over the water who isn't tried at the top job. Maybe that's what happens, because if you look at the detail of that polling, it does say that, yes, while Starmer beats Streeting, no question, a third of members do want the Prime Minister to stay where he is, and he could try and boost that if he can find his inner way of communicating with voters. But so there's two things happening as ever now with this strange political world we live in. The government's carrying on with its work. There's a business meeting behind me where MPs briefing, we're doing presentations on the NHS waiting list fallings, probably James Murray, as you say. GDP up, that'll be Rachel Reeves speaking there. The PM's had a breakfast with small businesses. There's a reception later as part of the Renters' Rights Act. And that's why I think that the government's trying to carry on as normal, but there has been the odd stumble. When Jo Stevens arrived for the Cabinet, she's, of course, the Welsh Secretary. Here's what happened.
Do you miss West Streeting? Should we rejoin the European Union, Minister? Who is running the country while you are fighting? Be careful, Minister.
Be careful, Minister, was shouted at the Minister as she stumbled, and that, of course, is this government's got to try and keep going and focusing, frankly, on walking forward, not falling over. But it's quite difficult when all of Westminster's thinking about who might replace Keir Starmer. Is it Wes Streeting? Is it Andy Burnham? Andy Burnham, of course, is doing his best to work out where he stands on Brexit. We've seen it before when he ran for leader. He can move around on policy, and he can't afford to be a flip-flopper again. But it appears that's what's happened already. While he says he doesn't want to talk about Brexit in a Brexit-facing constituency called Makerfield, but the party members are anti-Brexit, and how will he square that circle? And for Wes Streeting, of course, he's keeping his powders dry, but I am expecting Wes Streeting to give a resignation statement to the Commons tomorrow, and that'll be a big moment, I think. If it happens straight after PMQs, Keir Starmer may have to sit there and listen to it, and that'll be awkward.
And Christopher, what's interesting, the Cabinet is sitting around the table today being loyal to the Prime Minister. What if one of them says, Prime Minister, do I go to Makerfield by-election and campaign for Andy Burnham, whose first act as leader will be to trigger a leadership contest? What is the answer to that?
Well, the answer is Keir Starmer said he wants the entire Labour movement to campaign for Andy Burnham in this by-election. We're in this Alice in Wonderland world where everyone assumes all Andy Burnham wants to do is come back to Westminster, bring his Manchesterism idea, pack up being Greater Manchester Mayor and be simply the backbench MP for Makerfield. That's the idea, but no one believes it. Everyone knows that Andy Burnham is coming back to Westminster to replace Sir Keir Starmer. Will we see Sir Keir Starmer campaigning in Makerfield? We're expecting on Thursday night for him to be confirmed as the candidate. The writ could be moved in Westminster Parliament. What that means is that the government should today say whether this by-election will be on the 18th or 25th of June. And of course, those two Thursdays neatly surround the date we all left the European Union or voted to do so back on the 23rd of June 2016, as Miriam is saying. That will be the Brexit by-election because, of course, were Andy Burnham to win in a Brexit-facing seat, that will embolden people who want the party to fight next election on a campaign to rejoin the European Union. But of course, if Reform beat him, that's Andy Burnham back where he is in Manchester, and that will keep Keir Starmer where he is, possibly, unless Wes Streeting or Angela Rayner or even Al Carnes make a stand against him. So there's so many games of 3D chess being played.
Just finally, on the resignation statement, they can be devastating. Of course, famously, in 1990, Sir Geoffrey Howe made a resignation statement. Mrs Thatcher was on the front bench. He used all sorts of cricket analogies about the stumps being taken. And she never recovered from it. Michael Heseltine challenged. She was gone within 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, absolutely. When Geoffrey Howe said that it's like going out to face fast bowlers and your bat's being broken by your captain, the captain being Margaret Thatcher, she sat there soaking that up, and that was the end of her. Yes, it could be that moment. So I think tomorrow will be a very, very dramatic day, not here, but in Parliament.
Absolutely. Christopher Hope, our political editor in Westminster.
Thank you very much.
In
Downing Street, rather.
Well, also in Westminster.
Same thing.
Well, the Shadow Chancellor, Sir Mel Stride, is currently outlining how much a Labour leadership challenge will cost the country.
He's calling it the Burnham penalty, and we'll bring you some highlights of the speech, as and when, if there are any.
It's a good point, though, isn't it, that elections cost money. There could be a Manchester mayoral election as well if Burnham wins, which will be quite expensive.
Yeah, and a by-election, what does it cost? 250,000, 300,000, a million? No. I'm not sure. And the British taxpayer has to pay that.
Absolutely. The price of democracy. Can't put a price on democracy.
Absolutely. Now it's time for the break to give away your chance to win £76,543. And let's not forget the 21 pence tax-free. Here's how you do it.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543.21 in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, the latest YouGov polling of Labour Party members makes great reading for Andy Burnham this morning, but less so for Wes Streeting and Ed Miliband.
Thank heavens, particularly about Ed Miliband. Oh, imagine.
You're not a fan, are you?
No, and I just think every time you put your heating on, it costs a lot of money. Thank Ed Miliband for that.
I thought he was more popular with members than that, actually,
Yes.
I have to admit.
Well, there's
Maybe
something
not.
called the Labour List survey of party members every month, and he regularly tops the poll
Yeah.
as the most preferred cabinet minister by a country mile, and yet he's down on 3%.
Yeah, maybe it's a different... The people who read Labour List, and
Yeah.
it's not as representative an audience as the
Also,
YouGov
maybe
poll.
Labour Party members realise that Ed Miliband has got zero chance of winning a general election because he's unpopular.
Indeed, that is very true. Well, we'll be going through that and more with Kevin Maguire and Dr Renee Honderkamp. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Allow. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. 5 hosts,
5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very, very easy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
'Cause the
because
failure is-
you're
the failure is-
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 20 minutes past 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Panel are here. We've got GB News contributor Dr. Renee Honderkamp and the co-host of Pearce vs. Maguire podcast, Mr. Kevin Maguire himself. We've got a new poll coming out, Miriam, just published, haven't we?
Yes, from YouGov, which puts reform on 25%, which is down 3% since the local elections. Conservatives up 1, Labour up 1. So Conservatives on 18%, Labour 17, Green 15, Lib Dem 14. So all incredibly close together.
Kevin,
the store on
4% for the government. 17%. That's an extraordinary drop, isn't it? Calamitous.
I think Kevin's face says enough, actually.
I think given some of the mistakes, some people might wonder it's 17. It's around what they got in the locals.
They got 15 in the locals.
Yeah, but of course it's why so many of them want Starmer. It's why so many of them want Starmer to go, because they don't feel they get a hearing as long as he's there, because people have closed their eyes and their ears to him and think he's a dud, and whatever your achievements as well as your failures, you don't get that hearing. But it shows you the fractured politics we have when you have 5 parties there and the Libs are on 14. The reform on 25. That's less than double.
How much?
It's so tight. The reform are the biggest minority, the most significant minority. But that 25% is what? That's 9% less than Labour got the last general election, with a winning total of 34%.
And 20% less than Boris Johnson got in 2019. I mean, what an extraordinary change in our politics.
Yeah.
It is an extraordinary change, and it does paint a picture as we go forward of a very fractured government that probably we've seen in European countries across the years where they actually can't achieve anything. So we're in a really difficult place, aren't we? Because the government that we've got can't achieve anything and can't keep anyone happy, but we're faced with a prospect where actually we might have that.
Which I just intrigued. Which European countries are you thinking of that can't achieve anything?
Well, you've seen governments in places like Italy in the past where their governments fall consistently.
Yeah.
You've seen Holland, where the actual party that got the biggest vote was then shimmied out sideways by a coalition of the left. That happened in Spain as well, where the socialists all got together. So that's not democracy. That isn't democracy. I don't care what anyone says.
What really isn't democracy, and I've long backed a fairer voting system, proportional representation. Reform did when they thought it would benefit them. They've gone very quiet on it now because they think not. And Labour should never have got a thumping parliamentary majority on only 34% of the votes cast. So I think this system is going to throw up what's basically a winner-takes-all two-party system.
Well,
the 5 parties is going to throw up terrible results. But things are happening in Britain. But the problem we have, I believe, is getting long-term decisions correctly, like resolving social care, which no government, it's a huge issue, no government can just do it without widespread support, because it almost certainly won't be implemented properly until that party is out.
And that is a scandal, actually.
And you want to bring people together.
But you're not going to sort social care until you actually get a grip of this ridiculous welfare bill in every way.
No, that's not why we don't do it.
It is one of the reasons.
It's not why we don't do it.
It's one of the reasons. We ought to bring social care into the NHS. It ought to be part of the NHS budget, and then people would give it attention. But because it's outside of the NHS, it holds the NHS back, and it doesn't.
But isn't the problem that people think social care is free? And therefore, any change to that is unpopular, which is exactly what Theresa May found in 2017.
Yeah.
She put forward what actually was quite a sensible proposal, but because people thought it was free already.
Dementia tax.
Exactly.
So did Labour when Andy Burnham was Health Secretary in 2010, and it was labelled the tombstone tax because it was going to be an attachment to your estate. So if you left a lot of money, you'd pay something. If you didn't leave a lot of money, you wouldn't pay anything, but it would be free at the point of use. Scotland have free social care, but you get huge waiting lists because it's very... if you're going to fund it properly, which you want proper care for people so they can live in their own homes, be looked after. We've got to pay for it somehow. And that is an issue. You pay for it now.
But Kevin, the system that you just mentioned, that Andy Burnham, that you obviously thought was quite a good idea, again, penalises those who work hard, save and put money away and invest it in their homes, and rewards those who do the opposite. Again.
You're dead. It's the people who inherit who pay, but you're dead. You don't pay because you're dead. You're gone.
But it's still a reward for doing nothing.
No, you're dead.
Do you think he should bring that back?
I actually think that's the best solution I can see.
He will be challenged.
I can see, yeah. and it'll be a huge row. But if you're going to... People pay for social care now.
You could insure it.
But your savings go down, what, to 23 and a half,
I think it's a
24,000?
classic case for insurance because most people don't need expensive care, but if you happen to need expensive care, it's extraordinarily expensive, which is just like crashing your car. Most people don't crash the car, but if you do, you could face an enormous bill. So just create an insurance scheme.
Well, you'd pay that way.
You would, but somebody's got to pay.
But then you'd pay when you're alive.
Yeah, but you pay throughout your life as an insurance.
I think it is better paying when you're dead.
Well, then I'd spend all my money before I died.
Well,
how about that?
Well, good luck.
And then you have fights over how much the house is worth and things like that.
Well, it's awful.
Just have an insurance scheme.
You could, but it'll prove to be very expensive.
But the money that currently goes through taxation into social care very inefficiently and very unfairly. Take that off the tax, pay privately for insurance.
Think of all the battles people have over T&Cs in insurance policies when they have a car crash or their house
but in a
is
free
flooded,
market, Kevin, companies are incentivised to produce a good product.
Can you imagine how you're going to be...
We're not in a free market for social
and
care.
You're going to be old
very
and
few
vulnerable.
free markets in this country.
Let's talk about this Labour survey of Labour Party members, Kevin, because you know these people very well. I was amazed to see that Ed Miliband, who I think is a fanatic, net zero fanatic, he regularly polls top on that Labour list survey party members of who is the most successful minister, who they like best. He came in at 3%.
Yeah.
Thank God, because it means there's no chance he's going to be elected. But why so unpopular party members?
When we have secure energy supplies in the UK, I think
people who can't afford to pay their bills.
You will be grateful. But I think it's because the people who would have voted for him have gone over to Andy Burnham.
Right.
And the big handicap Ed Miliband has is he was rejected at the he was rejected at the 2015 general election. And I can see the argument. Look, we live in a parliamentary system. The Conservatives changed often, sometimes too often for their own good in 2022. But we live in a parliamentary system, so replacing your Prime Minister is legal, constitutional, whatever.
I think it's madness.
But if you've had somebody who was actually rejected by the population, by the electorate, by the voters at a general election, I think that is a big cross.
But Burnham's been rejected for the top job.
No, but only internally within a party.
Twice.
Yeah. No, well, both his campaigns, 2010 and 2015, I chaired hustings for the
well, he
trade
didn't.
unions.
Was it the price of a gallon of petrol?
That was the 2015.
He said hustings. It was £1.16 and it was £1.60.
Yeah, I used to,
you did for it.
I introduced my real-world round of questions. The candidates hated Yvette Cooper at one point, now Foreign Secretary, trying to stop it the second time, but I was not having it. And I asked, his, just random, was the price of petrol, and it was then £1.16 a litre, and he answered £1.60. And the laughter in the hall. I mean, he could have... Well, every time he filled up his car, it must have been costing more than the car did.
But of course, you probably didn't fill up a car because you'd had a ministerial car for years.
Yeah, very possibly. But but the second set of hustings, because I caught him out there, the second set of hustings, I asked a question, and I looked down, and he'd written everything out. He had the price of 50 things.
Cheating.
Very wise.
Which, of course, I then said to the crowd, he knows that because he's answered it.
Miriam liked that.
I do think he's much... I think he's
always be prepared.
Depends which beans you buy. I think
beans, Kevin. There's only one.
No. Sainsbury's reduced sugar and 35 or 39.
Renee, I know you're not a Labour supporter, but if you had to pick the best of the bunch, who would do the best job of leading our country?
Well, it would have to be Wes Streeting because he's the furthest to the right of a very bad bunch. But, I mean, I think this is... What's going on now is the most undemocratic thing we could see, in that this man, who has not been in Parliament for, a decade, is going to be voted in by 70,000 people and then almost just put into role.
That's how our system works, isn't it?
We know nothing about him. But if he's going to deviate so far from the manifesto that got this government in power with almost none of the population voting for him, then it should go to another general election.
Well, maybe he will.
Was it undemocratic when the Conservatives replaced Liz Truss with Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson with Liz
Did they deviate massively?
Well, Liz Truss massively did. And Rishi Sunak did. He raised national insurance.
With Boris Johnson,
yes.
David Cameron with... Yes. So that was all undemocratic.
Should we have a system where a bunch of MPs, spineless MPs, can kick out a Prime Minister because they think they're going to lose their seat. Because that's all this is about.
Yes,
they think they're going to lose their seat.
Yes, because it's a parliamentary system.
Well, you know how we solve
it's not
it.
presidential.
You know how we solve it.
But I do think, and I'd have lots more rules and regulations. I'd 4-year parliaments, not 5.
Kevin, I'm just going to stop you there because we're going to go to 10 Downing Street with Chris Hope because there's some activity there outside number 10.
That's the Cabinet leader. We're going to talk to Christopher Hope, who's in Downing Street.
Okay, good.
OK, the Cabinet's now breaking up here in Downing Street. Miriam and Andrew, you're seeing shouts as they leave. Ed Miliband's walked out already. Shabana Mahmood driving away, the Home Secretary. No one yet coming to talk to the camera. We're here with a camera and microphone. There's no need, it seems, to offer support for Keir Starmer this week. Last week was far more perilous, the Prime Minister. David Lammy going in, of course. He said, better week than last week. Here is David Lammy himself. David Lammy, is it over for the Prime Minister? David, come and talk to the camera. David Lammy, come and talk to GB News. We're here. David Lammy leaving there. And behind me, Hilary Benn just left, the Northern Ireland Secretary. David Lammy smiling there, as though not a care in the world. Better week than last week, he said, as he went into Downing Street, of course. The difficulties remain for this Prime Minister. We're expecting a statement probably tomorrow from West Streeting, a resignation statement, which the PM normally would have to sit through if it's held straight after PMQs. If it's delayed till later in the afternoon by other things happening in Parliament, that may allow the Prime Minister not to be there for that speech, which could be devastating. When we've seen before with other resignation speeches being real problems for sitting Prime Ministers, notably, as you said, Andrew, Geoffrey Howe and Margaret Thatcher back in the late 80s. Here we have Emma Reynolds, the Environment Secretary, leaving now. How was the meeting, Emma Reynolds? Hello, Peter. How was the meeting? How is Keir Starmer? That's Peter Kyle saying he can't hear us because reporters are shouting loudly as these ministers leave. That's Em Reynolds and Peter Kyle, of course, the Tech Secretary. They are smiling, but looking more relaxed than they were last week. Last week was a moment of intense peril for the Prime Minister, but the PM is much more chipper now. He was with reporters yesterday in Kensal Green in North London, and he was smiling. Whether he was smiling because he was thinking, I won't be here for that long, or whether he's thinking, I've got a chance here to try and reboot my premiership, reconnect with a very sceptical voter base. A third of Labour members still wanted to be Prime Minister. He would be beaten by Andy Burnham were there a leadership battle, but he would be Wes Streeting. So, in a sense, it might seem strange after last week's chaos, but all is not lost for this Prime Minister, and maybe that's what he'll have just been telling his team as they leave. Of course, there's a briefing with journalists at midday, and I'll be there for that.
Chris Hope, thank you very much for that report from 10 Downing Street. And that's the voice of Keith Bayes we could hear heckling the ministers as they
Our very own.
Is Chris outsourcing his shouting?
He is. Kevin, you are midway through a rare pearl of wisdom.
Yeah, I knew...
Easy.
I knew Keith Bayes when he was a student at Sunderland University, where I'm a visiting professor.
Did you teach him to shout at politicians?
No, I think he's a very good shouter himself. It's great to see him do so well. Now, I was going to say, I think when it's not undemocratic, but I think there should be a system. If you change prime ministers, there should be a general election, say 6 months after.
I think so.
You just have an automatic trigger.
And make a manifesto legally binding.
That would
but manifestos never used to be a thing, because the whole point of our parliamentary democracy, and we can have an argument about whether it's broken, but the whole point of our democracy is you elect a person to represent you, not be a delegate, represent you in Parliament, and then it's up to that person how they exercise that responsibility. And if you don't like it, in 5 years' time, you can kick them out. And that is our democracy. There is no link between the voter and the Prime Minister. There's no link between the voter and the Cabinet. There's no link, actually, between the voter and the party, although traditionally our members of Parliament do stand for parties, but they don't have to. And if you seek to change that by making a manifesto legally binding, by calling a general election when the Prime Minister's changed, you essentially completely change our parliamentary democracy. And I personally think we should be very careful about doing that, regardless of whether or not we think it's perfect.
I don't mind changing the democracy, yes, but I don't mind changing how we do it. I'd like a fairer voting system. I'd like that. You're right.
I think there's arguments for that, absolutely. But
there are implications of the 6-month rule if it came in as I'm advocating. But when John Major replaced Margaret Thatcher in 1990, there was no fuss about legitimacy. It seemed to come around when Gordon Brown replaced Tony Blair in 2007.
But that's because in 1990, members had no vote. It was just down to the MPs, and people accepted that. this was just a choice for MPs of who they want to lead them in Parliament. Whereas now we just see we see it as a presidential system, whether or not that is what it truly is.
I can see an argument for going back to MPs choosing a party leader, because they've been selected by their party to stand, but they've all been endorsed by their electorates wherever they do.
Well, that could mean Starmer would survive, because I think he's probably, because we certainly know he'd beat Streeting amongst MPs.
And also, you're right about the system. We have this ridiculous system where the Lib Dems have got 72 seats and got less votes than Reform, who have got 5 or 6. How many have they got now?
They're about proportionately right, the Lib Dems. I think the system is unfair on Reform at the moment, but it could be super over-fair or exaggerated at the next election, which is why they've gone quiet on a fairer voting system.
It is a really interesting debate, and I always used to be very opposed to proportional representation. But our system only really works when there's 2 main parties, and that just isn't the case anymore.
That's the point.
And the problem is there's no incentive. Let's say we take the vote on the right, so Reform, Restore and Conservatives. Under our first-past-the-post system, they cannot do a deal before the election. Even if they tried to do a deal, how would you even do that? Because in first-past-the-post, results are unpredictable. Whereas if we had proportional representation, they could all go over that after their vote share. After the election, they can see what percentage they get in Parliament between them and do a deal and work together. So,
just on those latest figures, if you have a left and a right bloc, the left bloc, Labour, Libs, Greens, is 46%. The right bloc, Reform and Conservatives, is 43, is smaller. Now, I don't know if Restore is in those figures.
No, it's not. It's on 5 or something, but
Yeah, but you can see there's a slightly bigger left bloc, but it may well...
seems fairer, like you say.
Be out. No, and I don't mind coalitions. I think, I think politicians and parties should be forced to work.
That Tory Lib Dem coalition was rubbish. Rubbish. What did it achieve? What did it do?
Actually,
and the Lib Dems were eviscerated as a result.
It didn't entirely feel like this at the time, but it was the last stable government. Which I don't...
That's a good point.
It's a relative concept these days.
I know. Who's Nick Clegg? Remember him?
Everyone agrees with
Nick Clegg. He's a very rich man.
They did.
Sir Nick Clegg, of course. Sir Nick Clegg. Up next.
Get Britain drilling. That's the message from the Conservatives. Find out how they plan to push through using our North Sea plants. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. Another day of showers today. Still pretty fresh, but warmer than yesterday. There is a risk of thunderstorms this afternoon, particularly across eastern areas of the UK. Now, this band of rain from overnight pushes into more northeastern areas. So it's going to be quite a damp day for the far north and east of Scotland. Behind that, it turns clearer for a time, but also plenty of showers will develop. Some of these quite heavy, bringing a risk of thunder as well as hail, so please keep an eye on them. You likely want some sort of cover if you're heading out. But it's going to be a little bit of a warmer day, temperatures climbing to the higher teens for most of us. That upward trend in the temperatures continues through the rest of this week, but for the time being, this evening still looks pretty damp, particularly across north and eastern areas where these showers will continue through the rush hour and through the early parts of the evening. Plenty of showers still across parts of Northern Ireland. It will turn a little bit drier for some central areas, but there's still a risk of some showery rain across the southwest, some quite brisk southwesterly winds as well. They continue through the night, so it's going to be a relatively mild night overnight. Plenty of cloud around, showers pushing in from the south and west into longer spells of rain. It's not going to be quite as heavy, the rain overnight. There'll be quite a lot of cloud around and some rain on and off through the night. So it does make for a mild night. Temperatures 10, 11, 12 degrees by the time you wake up on Wednesday morning. So pretty mild start to the day. A little bit of a drier day to come on Wednesday as well. We're starting to see higher pressure building in for more southern areas. We'll continue to see further wet weather pushing in from more north and western areas, but as you can see here, the showers are nowhere near as heavy on Wednesday. So I think for most of us, we should see a little bit more sunshine and dry weather, and as a result, temperatures a touch higher, touching 20 degrees in the south and east. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A41 northbound exit to the A697 at Northumberland, lane closures due to animals. Normal traffic expected by 11:15 this morning. On the M25 clockwise in Surrey between junctions 5 and 6, a broken down vehicle blocks 2 lanes. M4 eastbound drivers in Wokingham between junction 11 and 10 face lane restrictions due to a broken down vehicle. The A77 northbound Bogend off-slip is closed for planned maintenance, causing delays westbound on the A4076. And on the trains, South Western Railway and West Midlands Railway face disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 20 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
Well, the Tories have got a cunning ruse up their sleeve. They're going to force a vote to open up the North Sea for drilling for oil and gas after the government confirmed in the form of Ed Miliband, as you know, no favourite of mine, that new licences would be outlawed.
Well, in Scotland, the SNP had previously been against any new drilling for oil and gas, but John Swinney has said that his party now backs exploration if it can be shown to be climate compatible.
Let's talk to former SNP member and political commentator, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Not just aside the fact that it would give us, in my view, some energy security, Stuart, if we were drilling in the North Sea, wouldn't it be a jobs bonanza for Scotland?
Oh, undoubtedly, yes. I think that even now, with much reduced activity in the North Sea, in the oil and gas industry, there are still some 20,000 individuals who are employed in the business. So it's very important, and any relaxation on the ban of new drilling licenses would lead, I'm sure, to an increase in that. So it is very important for the prosperity of Aberdeen and the northeast of Scotland, and indeed Scotland as a whole.
And how many jobs does the industry support up in Scotland, Stuart?
Well, as far as I understand it, it's about 20,000 in Scotland, but about 10 times that across the UK. So it's a smaller but significant part of the UK's energy industry.
I don't understand the government's logic in banning new licences. They say it won't make any difference to price because oil and gas is sold on international markets. But if we've got this great asset under the sea, off the shore of Scotland, why in God's name don't we want to get it out?
Oh, I agree with you absolutely. And I think that one of the lessons that's coming out of the blockage of the Strait of Hormuz at the moment, which has impacted global energy prices extremely significantly, is that having your own strategic supply at home in your own country is increasingly important. And we have that capacity now. We have the capacity to be much more energy secure than we are when we rely on imports from other parts of the world. And I think that is beginning to change the thinking. Unfortunately, not changing Ed Miliband's thinking just yet, but perhaps he will turn, as they say.
It's hard to argue, though, that the plan to ban North Sea drilling is not just ideology. I mean, if, as Ed Miliband says, there is no case for doing it, either economically or environmentally, then it won't happen. Why do you need to ban it?
Well, indeed. I mean, I think there is a case for it economically, but he probably has more advisors and more expertise than I have in that particular sphere. And environmentally, I think, like most people, I'm very much in favour of exploring alternative and more ecologically friendly means of energy. But I don't think we can ever think that we're going to stop using fossil fuels altogether. And so the trick is to get the correct balance, the correct energy mix between renewables and fossil fuels. And I think that part and parcel of that could be reopening the North Sea once again to more drilling.
And the Scottish National Party has changed its position. It was opposed. It's now changed its view. Why is that? And why have they done that, in your view?
Well, the SNP have flip-flopped on oil and gas over the last 20 years. In fact, Alex Salmond, when he was leader of the SNP, basically predicated the case for Scottish independence on the price of a barrel of oil from the North Sea. And then, of course, the price of oil slumped, and that economic case was done and dusted and gone. But I think that realistically, if Scotland were ever to become independent, and that is extremely unlikely in my view, then energy security is an important part of the country's future, and it has to be secured.
Well, Stuart Crawford, thank you so much for joining us. That is a former SNP member. Stuart Crawford, thank you so much.
It's mad that they're doing it. It is ideological.
Yeah, absolutely. But the big mistake we've made is that we sold it off. It's got the Norwegians. They own it. It's part of their, their state's wealth, and so they make money from it. Whereas
they're going to carry on drilling, laughing at us.
Because if we reopened some of these oil wells and gas wells, we would get tax revenue from it. That is true. But we don't actually own what's underground, whereas the Norwegians do. I think it's a massive mistake.
Of course it is. Now up next.
Are you fed up of being told that Brexit is bad for our country and the economy? Well, the Brexit Unleashed conference in Westminster sounds just like the place you need to be.
But first, we're going to give you that forecast for some holiday sun. And looking at the weather here, we need some.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, you heading away for the next few days? Well, there's high pressure dominating for the Canary Islands as well as Spain and France. So plenty of sunshine here for the next few days. Temperatures climbing towards 20 degrees across much of Portugal and Spain. Some showers affecting Italy as well as parts of Greece through the latter part of this week. Could turn quite heavy actually across parts of Greece. There's a risk of thunderstorms through Thursday and Friday. But for most of us, plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're here at Lucky Hedgehog Rescue in Grimston in East Yorkshire for Hedgehog Awareness Week this week, and we're joined now by the founder, Lucy, of the charity. Lucy, hello. You're just about to take Ben out here. You've got 43 sick and injured hedgehogs here at the moment. Just tell us what's wrong with Ben.
Ben had a broken leg and it was a nasty fracture, and our lovely vets at Barton Veterinary Centre in the Humber have amputated the leg. It's a hind leg, and he's thriving really, really well, but we have to take them case by case. But I'm just going to check on him again and weigh him while you're here, so we don't unnecessarily disturb him. But this is what we have to do every day anyway, so I've saved him for you.
Thank you. So I'll just let you take Ben out now. You've been going for 13 years now. This is sort of part of your home, is the Hedgehog Rescue. Slowly and slowly you've been expanding to look after one of the nation's favourite, beautiful Ben there, the hedgehog. Obviously this week is all about raising awareness for hedgehogs. What are tips that people can follow to look after hedgehogs that they may see in their gardens and around?
Well, the main injuries we get in are caused by dog attacks and strimmers. We've lost thousands to them. So if people can be aware of their dogs at night or at dusk, keep them on a lead or be with them in the garden so that they don't attack hedgehogs. Strimmers, learn to use them properly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, it's a fascinating conference taking place at Westminster, bringing together Brexiteers to discuss why we left the EU and to respond to criticism that, frankly, the government, mainly the Tory government, failed to deliver the potential opportunities from leaving the wretched EU.
Well, GB News reporter Will Godley joins us now from Brexit Unleashed. Will.
Well, good morning to both of you. Yeah, this is Brexit Unleashed. The organisers say it's about promoting the benefits of Brexit. One of them, they say, is the trade deal we've done with the Pacific, although that is, of course, just a very small amount of our total trade we do around the world. But this conference comes amid a backdrop of many criticising the current Brexit deal. Many economists saying it's had a negative impact on our GDP. In fact, the OBR puts productivity at -4% by 2035. The OECD by -5% by 2030. Others point to migration from non-EU countries has risen as well. And the latest poll suggests from YouGov suggests that 58% of people say leaving the EU was a mistake. Among them, no doubt, Steve Bray, who's here to try and derail today's conference. He's outside with a big speaker. We might be able to hear some of the music he's playing. He's got EU flags and signs that say rejoin, a message perhaps to the people here. Although Lord Frost, of course, chief Brexit negotiator, told me there's lots we should be happy about.
So the benefits of Brexit are the ability to decide our own rules and our own laws in a free and independent democracy, and that's what we have been doing. Now, certainly some mistakes have been made over migration, for example, in the last few years, but nevertheless there have been reforms. We're outside the EU's AI rules, we've made some trade changes, we've made some financial services changes. We're beginning the way to push this country forward. The idea that there has been some economic hit from Brexit is simply not correct. You can't see it in the figures. It's a myth that's promoted by those who want to undermine the benefits of national independence.
You might be able to hear Steve Bray's music blasting from outside. He is one of the 58% of people who believe Brexit, leaving the EU, was a mistake. It's fair to say the majority now believe leaving was a mistake. What can you say to them to make them think it wasn't? Because the vast majority of people think Brexit just hasn't worked.
Well, I think what you're seeing in the polls is just general discontent with the state of the country. You know, what you're seeing in the latest poll I saw was people saying Brexit hadn't been done well. And I would probably agree with that. You know, we didn't do everything that we should have done after we left. So people can have all sorts of different reasons for thinking that the state of the country could be better, and it definitely could be better. But when you ask specific questions about Brexit, like where do you want powers to sit? Do you think the British government ought to have, say, the final say on issues like trade, environment, migration? People overwhelmingly across all the parties say they think those decisions should be taken in Britain. And that's what Brexit was about.
Lord Frost speaking to me from here a little bit earlier on, but everything that they talk about here today at Brexit Unleashed might be a little bit short-lived because, of course, Andy Burnham saying Brexit has been damaging to the UK. Wes Streeting says it's been catastrophic. He even wants to see the UK rejoin the EU. So any new Prime Minister might make changes to the current Brexit agreement we have at the moment.
Will Godley, thank you so much for that report. Yes, Brexit's in the news again. You've been getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. Michael says Brexit was never going to work because our elites and business leaders didn't really want it. And Liam says, let me know when the Brexit we voted for is implemented and not the watered-down version we have.
And, of course, if you remember, the government made absolutely no contingency plans for Britain voting to leave the European Union.
It was a shock to everybody, wasn't it?
Cameron and Osborne were so arrogant, they assumed that people would vote to stay.
And then, of course, Cameron left.
He did. He flounced
out.
Well, up next, unemployment is out of control as it rises again in Britain this morning. So this is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Another day of showers today. Still pretty fresh, but warmer than yesterday. There is a risk of thunderstorms this afternoon, particularly across eastern areas of the UK. Now, this band of rain from overnight pushes into more northeastern areas. So it's going to be quite a damp day for the far north and east of Scotland. Behind that, it turns clearer for a time, but also plenty of showers will develop. Some of these quite heavy, bringing a risk of thunder as well as hail, so please keep an eye on them. You likely want some sort of cover if you're heading out. But it's going to be a little bit of a warmer day, temperatures climbing to the higher teens for most of us. That upward trend in the temperatures continues through the rest of this week, but for the time being, this evening still looks pretty damp, particularly across north and eastern areas where these showers will continue through the rush hour and through the early parts of the evening. Plenty of showers still across parts of Northern Ireland. It will turn a little bit drier for some central areas, but there's still a risk of some showery rain across the southwest, some quite brisk southwesterly winds as well. They continue through the night, so it's going to be a relatively mild night overnight. Plenty of cloud around, showers pushing in from the south and west into longer spells of rain. It's not going to be quite as heavy, the rain, overnight. There'll be quite a lot of cloud around and some rain on and off through the night. So it does make for a mild night. Temperatures 10, 11, 12 degrees by the time you wake up on Wednesday morning. So pretty mild start to the day. A little bit of a drier day to come on Wednesday as well. We're starting to see higher pressure building in for more southern areas. We'll continue to see further wet weather pushing in from more north and western areas, but as you can see here, the showers are nowhere near as heavy on Wednesday. So I think for most of us, we should see a little bit more sunshine and dry weather, and as a result, temperatures a touch higher, touching 20 degrees in the south and east. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You have the power then.
Yeah,
as I say, now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel. As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
It's 11 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th of May, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Labour Party has backed Andy Burnham.
Britain has been on the wrong path. 40 years on the wrong path.
New Labour Party member polling puts Burnham a clear front-runner in any leadership race. Wes Streeting, nothing like as popular as he thought he was, even less popular than Sir Keir Starmer. That's saying something.
Is your premiership now over?
No, but we were elected into office by millions of people to bring about change in this country.
Yet Downing Street is defiant. The Prime Minister insists he will not walk away as this morning his new-look cabinet meets for the first time.
David Lammy says a nicer week than last week. The chaos of last week is a memory. But how did Keir Starmer do? Did he convince his cabinet, as he wants to do, he can lead the party into the next general election?
Breaking news, the rate of UK unemployment has gone up again to 5%, but look at this, youth unemployment hits an 11-year high. It's now almost 16% of our 18 to 24-year-olds aren't in work.
Your viewers will have all experienced dodgy vape shops, dodgy barber shops, dodgy nail bars, and those often have been homes for serious organised criminality.
Well, that was Dan Jarvis, the Security Minister, speaking to GBNews earlier, and he is launching a retail crime war. A new specialist task force will tackle dodgy high street shops linked to money laundering and illegal working.
And Brexit Unleashed. Prominent Brexiteers are at a conference in Westminster this morning, highlighting the benefits of leaving the EU, and there are a lot of them. We're checking in there.
It's always very concerning to see youth unemployment going up, Andrew. It's often the sign of a recession coming. And we used to have much lower rates of youth unemployment than France and Spain, but now overtaking them, which is very concerning.
Remember in the 80s, the Thatcher government introduced something called YOPS, Youth Opportunity Schemes, because youth unemployment was so high and it was just seen as unacceptable, and it is.
There's this perception that so much of Britain isn't working, but actually the number of people not actively involved in the economy has stayed pretty constant for the last few decades, but it's who isn't working that's changed. It's now more young people aren't working, and particularly older women are working, where that never used to be the case.
You see it just in your supermarket, don't you?
Absolutely.
A lot of older people stacking shelves and on the tills. Now, we just want to share that look at the unfortunate moment for the Secretary of State for Wales approaching Downing Street this morning.
Do you miss Wes Streeting? Should we rejoin the European Union, Minister? Who is running the country while you're all fighting? Be careful, Minister.
Who'd be a politician?
Political banana skin minister?
Poor woman.
I know. She's wearing flat shoes too. There's probably a pothole in Downing Street.
Probably.
There are everywhere else.
Well, there we go. We can make a video out of it, I'm sure. Well, we'd love to know what you think. Send your views and post your comments to
gbnews.com/you'll say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just coming up to 4 minutes past 11.
A new specialist law enforcement unit is being set up to target criminal gangs operating from so-called dodgy shops on Britain's high streets. The government says some convenience stores, vape retailers, takeaways and American candy shops are being used as fronts for organised crime, money laundering and people smuggling networks. The £20 million crackdown will include a new National Crime Agency cell, 75 extra police officers and more funding for trading standards. But the Conservatives say 75 officers is nowhere near enough to fix crime and antisocial behaviour on the high street. Well, earlier this morning, the Security Minister, Dan Jarvis, told us he is confident that serious criminals will be imprisoned and that millions of pounds could be seized.
I'm confident that over the coming months we will see thousands of raids on high streets up and down the country. We'll see lots of arrests and hopefully we'll see a number of the serious organised criminals responsible for this activity brought to justice.
In other news, serious rape and sexual misconduct allegations linked to Channel 4's Married at First Sight programme are now facing government and regulator scrutiny. A BBC Panorama investigation heard that claims from 2 women said they were raped during filming, while a third says she experienced a non-consensual sex act. Channel 4 has now removed all episodes from its streaming and broadcast services and launched an external review into welfare on the show. The production company says that its welfare system was gold standard and that it acted appropriately. But the government says the allegations must now be investigated in full and there must be consequences for any criminality or wrongdoing. Sir Keir Starmer has gathered his new-look cabinet for the first time this morning following Wes Streeting's resignation as Health Secretary and his call for the Prime Minister to stand down. Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy joked earlier that it was a nicer week than last week as ministers arrived in Downing Street. But across Labour, attention is now turning to Andy Burnham after he's launched his pitch for a possible leadership challenge, saying he wants a new path for Britain. He's seeking to return to Westminster through the Makerfield by-election, but the Conservatives' Claire Coutinho said this morning that his record should now face much closer scrutiny.
Andy Burnham for years has got to be the fun uncle in the Labour Party. He can say whatever he wants, call for whatever he wants, and he's not accountable for any of it, right? So he can say we should nationalise everything, we shouldn't worry about the bond market, we can rejoin the EU and all our problems will go away, and he's never been held accountable. It's basically the fun uncle who says you can have ice cream for dinner, we're going to the zoo next week, because he's not footing the bill. And now he's going to be under proper scrutiny. He's actually being held to account for some of the things that he's been saying in the past, and I think you'll see very quickly, as we are seeing now, that those positions will change.
UK unemployment has unexpectedly risen as the number of job vacancies has fallen to its lowest level in 5 years. The jobless rate has edged up to 5% in the 3 months to March, while vacancies dropped to 705,000 between February and April. Analysts say the figures show the early impact of the Iran war on the jobs market, with employers becoming more cautious. Hospitality and retail are among the sectors seeing the biggest falls in vacancies and payroll numbers. And that comes as youth unemployment is also now at 14.7%. That is the highest level since late 2014, prompting warnings that young people are being hit especially hard. Donald Trump has said he has postponed what he describes as a very major military attack on Iran today after Gulf allies asked him for more time to reach a peace deal. The president claims serious negotiations are now underway and insists that any agreement must include no nuclear weapons for Iran. But his warning remains stark. US forces have been told to prepare for a full, large-scale assault at a moment's notice if no acceptable deal is reached. And those talks come amid the continuing standoff over the Strait of Hormuz, where disruption has helped to drive up global energy prices. Here, the Conservatives are attempting to force a parliamentary vote on Labour's plans to stop issuing new oil and gas licences. Shadow ministers have claimed the policy risks making Britain more dependent on foreign energy during the global crisis. But the government insists that new drilling will not lower bills or improve energy security. And Donald Trump has said he is concerned about the Ebola outbreak after a US citizen tested positive for the virus. The US State Department says it is working with health officials to repatriate Americans affected by the outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Health officials there say more than 130 people have now died, with more than 500 suspected cases. The World Health Organization is trying to limit the spread, including by encouraging safe burials. President Trump says the virus remains confined to Africa, but cases are now being found across wider parts of the affected region. Those are the 11 o'clock headlines. More still to come with Andrew and Miriam.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Very grim statistics again. Youth unemployment in Britain has reached its highest level in 11 years during Keir Starmer's time in office. 16%. Yeah, shocking.
Very high. Well, some employers say that increases to the minimum wage and national insurance contributions have made it more difficult to recruit younger workers.
And the overall rate of unemployment in the UK also rose to 5% in the 3 months to March.
Joining us now is the Director of PopCon, Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood. Mark, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Clearly, these are worrying figures. The headline rate of unemployment is still relatively low from a historic perspective, and yet there's this concerning trend amongst young people. What do you think is leading to that rise?
Yeah, Miriam, you're right. I mean, Andrew's just called it grim. I think at the top of the hour you called it concerning. You've just called it worrying, but none of it should be surprising. There's a pretty simple rule in economics. If you put the price of something up, people will consume less of it. If you put the price of tomatoes up, people will buy fewer tomatoes. If you put ice cream up, they'll eat less ice cream. And if you put the cost of labour up, people will employ fewer people. They'll consume less labour. And that's exactly what this ironically named Labour government has done. So put yourself in the shoes of, I don't know, a small business owner who's thinking, shall I take on a young person, 18, 19, 20-year-old? I think I might get about £8 or £9 an hour of productivity out of them, maybe a tenner. But I'm going to have to pay them more than that, given the minimum wage. I have to pay national insurance on top. I'm not at all confident that my tax rates will come down anytime soon, so that could be ratcheted up even further at the next budget. You know what? I'm not going to grow my company. I'm not going to take the risk. I'm not going to employ the person. So we've got all the incentives in the wrong place, basically. And the young person themselves might be thinking, well, this isn't the most attractive job I could do. It's the bottom rung of the ladder. I'm feeling a bit depressed about life at the moment. I'm suffering from a little bit of anxiety. Maybe if I get signed off, I'll actually get about the same amount of money hitting my back pocket. So at the young end of the labour market, that's what we're seeing. And it's hugely concerning because if you don't get work into your bloodstream as the basic norm of how you're going to live your life, we risk a wasted generation.
And Mark, you would have heard as often as I have various cabinet ministers saying we're going to massively increase the number of apprenticeships which you would hope would go to people leaving school 18. Do these apprenticeships ever materialise?
Very rarely, Andrew. I share the cynicism that I inferred from your question there. Look, apprenticeships are a good thing, but you don't really want the government running them. You want companies running them. You want a plumbing company to say, you know what, we want to take on 20 apprentices and we want that to be cheap and easy to do. And you get into a mindset in which young people entering the labour market, you know, maybe they're not making ends meet immediately. Maybe they're not being paid very much. It's a bit like training. It's a bit like going to school or university. At university, we don't pay students to write their essays. So if you're just learning the job, really the employer's doing you a service as much as you're doing them a service. So I'd like to incentivise businesses doing it, but I think some big grand government scheme of we're going to create from Whitehall 10,000, 100,000, 1 million apprenticeships is bound to end in failure. So the government should be setting the backdrop, the tone, the mood music of the market, the rules of the market, and letting business get on with it. And unfortunately, they're making it harder and harder for businesses to get on with it. That's why we're seeing this with unemployment, and that's why growth really still remains on the floor.
Mark, we hear so much from young people themselves about how difficult it is to get any work experience at all. Even schools have stopped doing work experience now. And so obviously it becomes even more risky for employers to take them on if they've got no track record. Do you think, as well as possibly problems with the minimum wage, there are also problems with regulation, health and safety? And I know from personal experience, 15-year-olds just can't get jobs anymore. And that's a really important period of time when they could have a Saturday job, be learning good skills and getting ready for the workplace.
Yes, I agree with you, Miriam. We've basically built in a set of rules which have become extraordinarily risk adverse. I mean, I can remember we did some work with my former employer with lots of young people, but you need all sorts of checks to make sure that, endless checks to make sure that nobody's got a bad record and all of the rest of it. And on occasions, I was tempted to sort of shrug my shoulders and to say, is this really worth the candle? Also, bear in mind, the government are bringing in this so-called employers' rights bill. So if you take on an employee, you'll also be thinking, supposing I fall out with them, my God, I could end up in court. I could end up having to pay them a fortune because it hasn't worked out after 2 or 3 months. And they'll accuse me of sexual discrimination or race discrimination or God knows what else. So we have become far, far too risk adverse. And on young people, and you mentioning that about work experience, Miriam, I mean, I would like to build that in automatically into a school's curriculum. That when you become, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, 16, you do a bit of time working at a local company, just as part of your growing experience. We're doing the wrong thing by saying everybody's got to stay in education to 18, and really everybody's then got to go to university. I actually think when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, we need to give you some real experience at the coalface, at work. And we seem to be retreating from that, thereby turning out graduates aged 21 who potentially have no experience of any real workplace whatsoever. All of that culminates in these very dismal statistics we're seeing today.
And it's just the worst time, isn't it, for young people? So many of them are not even in no form of education. What do we call them? NEETs. Not in employment, education or training. It's a desperate failure of the state and private enterprise for these young people who were let down so badly during COVID. We should never have shut the schools down either.
Yeah, I think that's right, Andrew. I mean, it is terrible what young folk have gone through, especially if you were at school or hoping to enter the labour market when we had the extraordinarily long lockdowns. We have an incredibly disillusioned youth base, really, in the whole of the United Kingdom. And I think young people are also scratching their heads, sort of thinking, you know what, even if I really do apply myself to it, even if I do work really hard, have I ever got any chance of being able to afford a house? Probably not. I'll be in my 40s, 50s or 60s before I can get a mortgage because property prices are so high. So you've got the perfect storm, unfortunately, for young people, and we've got to correct it fast because all of the evidence shows if you're out of the labour market for a long time, the knock-on effects of this for the rest of your life are terrible. OK, if you're out for a few weeks or a few months even between jobs, but if it becomes the norm in your life that you're one of these NEETs, not in education or training or apprenticeships, then this is a disaster. You may well have a generation of people who just never get used to working, who consider it alien, really, to be in a regular job and climbing the career ladder. So the statistics look bad today, but the long-run impact of this in 5 or 10 years' time, I'm afraid, could be even worse unless we very quickly change track.
Mark Littlewood, thank you so much for your time this morning. And some of our viewers have been commenting on gbnews.com/your say. Jackie says, isn't the hike in unemployment down to all the tens of thousands of immigrants that have been granted British citizenship and are now added to the data?
And the youth unemployment situation is going to get a whole lot worse because this government is bringing back a form of free movement of people for young people in Europe under the age of 30. If it was just students, bad enough, but up to the age of 30, how many hundreds of thousands are going to come here and take the jobs in hospitality, which appears our young people don't want to do?
But there are also shortages of workers in this country, and the problem is that, as I said, the overall employment rate in this country has not changed much at all in decades. We have about 21% of people who are not economically active. That seems to be a kind of ceiling in the economy. It's who's working and who isn't. And because of our collapsing birth rate, I mean, in 1980, you had 10 20-year-olds for every 6 60-year-olds. Now we only have 5 20-year-olds for every 6 60-year-olds. So although a lot of immigrants have come and a lot of immigrants are working, because we have such a shortage of our own young people, it hasn't actually changed the employment rate much. No. I think it's more about incentives for employers, to be honest.
I think it is. It really is. As ever, we want to know what you think, and also we're going to tell you about our Great British giveaway. Your chance to win £76,543.21. It's tax-free. Here's how you do it.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, the Royal College of Nursing is flying a Trans Progress Pride flag at their headquarters as part of their Pride in Nursing campaign.
Why?
That's what we're going to ask. Who knows? Maybe they just thought it looked pretty.
Well, I think it's offensive, frankly. We'll be going through that and more with Rennie Hunterkamp and Kevin Maguire. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter. Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
It's 23 minutes past 11. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
We're joined by GB News contributor Rennie Hunterkamp and co-host of Pearce vs. Maguire podcast, Mr. Kevin Maguire. HS2, you were never a fan. Tell us what's happened to it now, Renee.
I was never a fan, but now it's going to take even longer to come to fruition, I think, towards the end of the 2030s, and it's now going to cost over £100 billion. That's now. And as I just said to you in the break, it will actually be 200 billion. And it will be into the 2040s, and it's only going to go to Birmingham. It's a joke. We should scrap it now. I don't care how much we've spent on it. It doesn't matter. Let's not spend any more on this great big white horse.
And what's the comparator for the spending that we've seen in the papers?
Well, it's been a disaster. What if Artemis, the Americans for 79 billion, some clever clog
to go to the
on
moon.
the eye paper have said that. Yeah, you can get a person on the moon quicker than you can get somebody from London to Birmingham, because of course when Gordon Brown announced it, it was about a third of this price, but it was going to go off to Yorkshire, Leeds, as well as up to Manchester, and then the possibility of Spurs after that. It's just proved absolutely terrible. It was during the Conservative years. The construction has run out of control. Somebody hasn't done the sums right. Then there were all these people in the home county saying, I don't want a rail line near my village, so having to put it very expensive.
I mean, you can't blame them. You can't blame them. You wouldn't want one near your house.
I tell you, when I go walking around Britain, or I get on the train up to the northeast, which I do regularly, at King's Cross to Newcastle, you go through villages and little towns and you cope with it. It's very different to having a motorway, having a rail line. I mean, rail lines can be quite attractive, but it's just turned out to be a disaster. And it is a national embarrassment. And why do we get infrastructure projects so wrong? The first HS1 is the Channel Tunnel rail line from London to the Channel Tunnel. That collapsed in the private sector, had to be rescued by John Prescott, was the Deputy Prime Minister and Transport Minister
and then he
at the
dug
time.
it himself.
But he made it. He made it a success. London 2012 was a success.
Actually,
in
one of the few Olympics that came in under budget and no debts.
And it redeveloped, regenerated that part of East London very successfully.
It did, but if you remember when it was announced, the naysayers, the people who said it would be awful, we shouldn't be doing it, we shouldn't be spending that money. And having grown up in the East End of London, I always thought it was the best thing that East London could ever have.
Yeah, and it's worked, but this project in particular has proved a disaster.
So would you abandon it, like Renee?
No, I'd try and just make it work as best you can. Now, otherwise you're just writing off a whole load of money if you haven't got stations either end.
But it's going to cost even more money.
Yeah,
Renee's right. It's completely out of control.
It's about trying to make the best now of a bad job.
I mean, it was conceived, what was it, 2008, and it's 2026, and they've barely done anything. Except the bill's gone through the roof.
Sometimes you have to cut your losses.
18 years. It's an embarrassment.
Exactly the same thing has happened, Renee, with the Sizewell C nuclear power plant. The budget's gone up and up, the timing's gone up and up. It's not even been given final approval. The design hasn't anywhere yet. It just seems to be that the amount of red tape we have in this country, the number of consultations that have to happen, the obsession with environmental change, indeed, it's just paralysed our ability to build
Save the bat's nest.
It is embarrassing. I mean, this is going to be out of date by the time it's finished, if it's ever finished. And we should have gone with a different, I said, you know the name of it.
The magnetic
train in Japan.
Magaluf's a holiday resort.
Which wouldn't have happened.
We'd all rather be there right now.
Which wouldn't have actually had the building constraints, because it can go high. It doesn't have to go through villages.
Yes.
It can go high.
I don't think people really want a line on stilts through their village any more than they would on the ground. And I can see why people wanted tunnels, but you should have said no. No, I'm sorry. It's in the national interest.
The mag train can bend. This one couldn't bend. That's the problem, because it was supposed to be so high speed.
But
now it isn't. It's the same.
Yeah. It's an embarrassment.
Why is the Royal Darlington? Why is the Darlington Nursing Unit? Remind us, Renee, why they are in particular nurses at
So
Darlington.
the 5 Darlington nurses who were forced to change in their changing rooms with a male identified trans person, and when they actually created a fuss about it and said they didn't want to change in front of a man, they were given a cupboard and the male got their changing room. This actually ended up, they got suspended, some of them in the end, it went to court. In the end, they were vindicated.
Yeah, they were.
Unfortunately, the Royal College of Nursing has not quite taken that vindication on board and continues to support this ideology. And we see it throughout the NHS. I think the NHS is probably one of the most captured organisations that we have in this country. You cannot walk through a GP surgery, a hospital, a clinic without looking at trans flags. This is an inclusive place, when actually what that flag is the total opposite of inclusive. It tells people that you are either inclusive with our ideology or you are on the outside.
And this is good. And they are flying this trans flag at the Royal College of Nursing
above
HQ.
their building. Why should any government body fly anything but our union flag?
It's not a government body. It's an independent trade union.
It gets
can
funding.
fly. I think it flies the union flag.
You're seeing it on the screen now. It does fly the union flag.
There we are.
But why have that divisive flag on the roof?
The reason they say they fly it, and look, it's not my flag, but they say is because they want to be inclusive with everyone. Now, the Darlington nurses were badly treated. The Trust handled that really badly. They've broken away. They're now it's a union. It's a very small association. I don't know if it's registered as a union with a certification officer, which you need to do to be a union. Maybe they are, but they're having a pop at a bigger union. If I'm going to get upset about issues, I'd probably get upset about mixed wards still in the NHS, rather than a flag being flown over a building.
You can be upset about more than one thing at once.
Yeah, but I just think a little sense of perspective.
No.
It's not my flag. It came from the States. You had the traditional rainbow flag.
If you think men can be women, you've got no place being a nurse, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Also, this is a political statement. That flag is a political statement.
Yeah, it is.
So they are aligning themselves.
So are yours.
They are aligning
that's right,
themselves.
It's allowed to be political. It's GBNews.
There's no
So kind of trade union with lots of diverse members.
And, of course, the King is patron of this Royal College of Nursing. Why drag him into it?
Well, you just dragged him in, haven't you?
Well, he's the patron. He's the patron, I'm pointing it out.
Not.
He's a new patron too, I might add.
To be fair.
And I bet His Majesty doesn't want to see that daft flag fluttering above the HQ.
Of course, we're now
he doesn't know, he doesn't care.
He'll be glued to GB News every day.
No, well,
if he's at the garden party this afternoon, Kevin, I'll ask him.
You'll have a little word.
I'll ask him.
I've been to one of those.
Yeah, this afternoon.
When you're there, I hope it doesn't rain.
The problem is, Kevin, though, people do... You can see the argument for diminishing this and say it's just a flag.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to agree with it, don't get worried about it. But actually, ideas and beliefs are what underpin society and underpin our policy and our action. And we've seen the damage that trans ideology has done to children, to women, the problems that it's caused in hospitals, in schools. And actually, it's an incredibly pernicious and false idea that there's no difference between the sexes and making the comment. So we need to get rid of it.
There's a very small number of people who believe they're born in the wrong.
Well, they can believe that all they want, but there's a very small number of people who think that's true.
There are some people born with both sexual organs, male
but that's like 0.01%, and it also doesn't negate the idea of there being two sexes.
We're talking about a small minority. And
why do they need a flag?
It's become a horrible shouting match, and I always wanted.
But somebody has to win the argument, Kevin. It's easy to say. Let's just take the heat out of it.
Some people are born in the wrong. But there are some people who are born.
Whose body are they born in then?
Nobody is born in the wrong body.
That does not remove issues around women's spaces. I accept, particularly if they still have their, let's be honest, bits.
Anyway, bits or no bits,
or sport and so on. But I just think we should just calm it down. And of all the issues to get upset about, it's not a flag.
And also, we know that, and we know a lot of NHS trusts have not accepted the Supreme Court ruling about same-sex spaces.
And
this is the Royal College of Nursing cocking a snooker.
And we also know that Andy Burnham wants self-ID, and he doesn't like the Supreme Court ruling either. So women are now faced with another change in our Prime Minister into a man who is going to once again undo the hard work that we are trying to do to reclaim our space. You're absolutely right. If somebody believes they're born in the wrong body, knock yourself out, do whatever you want, but you cannot identify into my space.
Yeah, no, I think there's an issue. I think there's an issue, but presumably, if somebody, a trans woman, was respectful, you wouldn't have a problem. But if you feel there's somebody who's aggressive,
no,
you
I don't
have a problem.
You don't separate people by sex.
Corrective surgery.
Yeah, because you're still a man. You can't change. Every single one of the billions of cells in your body has your X or Y chromosomes, so you can't change your sex.
I get that as a big issue on, say, sport, but if somebody had corrective surgery.
Why do you think women are?
No,
corrective.
Hang on. Well,
what do you mean?
They've had their bits off.
Oh,
right. Just to put it at its crudest.
But Kevin,
in a way Andrew would understand.
Kevin, women are highly evolved.
Chatted to him, yes.
To feel fear in the presence of an unknown man.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't actually matter what that man has underneath his trousers or doesn't.
We know
women feel fear if a man is in their change room who shouldn't be there. Of course it is an enclosed space. That fear is highly evolved to keep us safe. The fact that he's had surgery makes no difference at all.
I would also point out, Kevin, that 95% of men who dress as women and say they're women do not have their bits.
I don't know about that figure, but the law has to be there to deal with people.
The law
who
should be based on
But
truth.
I know the women I work with at the minute had this discussion. They said the people they are worried about are not trans women, they are predatory men.
Guess what a trans woman is? A man.
What do you call a man who tries to force himself into a woman's changing room?
God.
A predatory male.
You know, there is predatory behaviour, but if people are just living their lives and they're not being aggressive, I think it's different.
We keep all men... Listen, Kevin, we keep all men out of women's spaces. We keep them all out. Most of them are not going to rape us. Most of them are not predatory. We keep them out because we can never tell which ones will be. And most attacks on women are by men. Therefore... Any men, whether they wear a dress, say they were born in the wrong body, have their bits cut off, is a man.
I get that's an issue. Most attacks on women are by partners, unfortunately.
On that note, we did invite the Royal College of Nursing to come on the programme. They would have joined a very lively discussion, but we have had a statement from which Miriam would love to read.
Thank you, Andrew. The Royal College of Nursing says its Pride in Nursing campaign is about celebrating diversity, equality and inclusion and supporting LGBTQ+ members and colleagues.
Harumph from me. Here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just after 11:30, the headlines this hour. The government is setting up a new £20 million task force to tackle organised crime gangs operating using so-called dodgy shops on Britain's high streets. Police units will target businesses suspected of being used for money laundering, illegal immigration networks and criminal gangs. The Department for Culture, Media and Sport says the rape claims levelled at the Channel 4 show Married at First Sight are serious. It comes after the BBC's Panorama revealed 2 women who'd taken part in the show made allegations during filming. The broadcaster has removed previous seasons of the show from its platforms and launched an external review. UK unemployment has unexpectedly risen to 5%, while job vacancies have fallen to their lowest level in 5 years. Analysts say the first effects of the Iran war are starting to hit hiring, with hospitality and retail seeing some of the sharpest falls. Donald Trump has revealed the US was planning to launch an attack on Iran today, but says he will now hold off at a request of his Gulf allies. The president says serious negotiations are underway, but added that he is prepared to launch a full, large-scale assault if an agreement is not reached. And health officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo say the number of deaths as a result of Ebola has risen to more than 130. Cases are now being found across wider parts of the region. The World Health Organization says it's trying to limit the spread by encouraging safe burials. Those are the headlines for now. A full roundup with the news at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Emily. They're here in the studio. What's coming up in your show, guys?
Well, we think these are going to be the final few hours that on television, legally in this country, we can actually discuss this bloomin' by-election.
Yes.
That's because we expect the writ to be moved in Parliament this afternoon. Once that is, we could be in the restricted election period, which means all sorts of regulations apply to broadcasters on television and radio in determining what we can say about this by-election and how we can say it. So these are our final few hours of freedom, and we're going to use them.
We will use them, yes.
And of course, we all assume that the National Executive Committee will endorse Andy Burnham as the candidate. What if they didn't? Wouldn't that be a hoot?
Well,
what if they said, actually, no, we don't want a carpetbagger from outside, we want a local?
This is fundamentally unlikely.
Yes, but the anarchist in me hopes it happens.
They did approve that he could step forward for selection.
Yes.
They haven't yet selected the long list.
Nope.
They haven't selected the short list.
Yeah.
And the local party doesn't decide until Thursday. So we've got some time and several hoops to jump through until Andy Burnham becomes the candidate, if indeed he does.
He's loving all the attention, isn't he?
Of course he is.
Madly tweeting.
Mr. U-turn.
Yeah, Mr. U-turn already, yes. Yeah. 2 U-turns, is it already?
Yeah, there'll be plenty more. He was,
and the bond markets, he does care about them.
There was a blizzard of them in 2015 when he was running for the leadership, and he was a distant second to Jeremy Corbyn, and a lot of people argued it was because there was no consistency in his message.
Well, could he lose again?
The local party would be daft not to select him, though, because the polls show that any other candidate would lose quite comprehensively to Reform.
I mean, he's a shoo-in. He's a complete shoo-in. He will be the candidate, but that's not going to be announced until Thursday.
Well, daft things happen, don't they?
That's true, it's true.
In politics, it's all a game, isn't it, really?
Yeah, we've also got lots else that we're talking about besides this by-election, including youth unemployment figures, which have shot up today. We're worse than Greece and Spain, if you can believe it.
Isn't that terrible?
Red tape and minimum wage increases. Also, have reality shows gone too far?
You think about that Channel 4 one?
Well, yes, Channel 4, but also we've got Virgin Island, which is hideous.
I've never watched it.
Yes, and we've also got Naked Attraction and God knows what else.
Oh, that is gross.
Podcasts.
Yes, I'm glad I work on a news channel.
Well, I watch them all because I'm a moron, so there you go. I'll tell you what they're like. I'll tell you what they're like.
Story, I've just read that over 10% of the youth who are unemployed are actually graduates.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. All these silly degrees that don't actually help you.
We were talking to Mark Littlewood earlier this morning about these apprenticeships. The government's always going on about millions of new apprenticeships. They never happen.
No.
And anyway, the state shouldn't be providing them. We want employers to.
Well, exactly. Just make it easier for them for a plumber to take on an apprentice. How hard is that?
Plumbers become MPs these days, I think.
They do.
Well, all that's coming up and more at midday. But up next, why on earth has Britain been hit with the highest property tax burden in the developed world?
We'll crunch the numbers and tell you what they mean for you. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A very showery day across the UK today. Some hail and thunder in the livelier downpours, but it will feel a little warmer. A sign of things to come. We do have drier, sunnier and much warmer weather on the way for later this week. The time being, however, we've got the rain, and that rain coming in the form of showers during the rest of the day. One band of more persistent wet weather clearing eastern England, pushing into Orkney and Shetland through the afternoon, and then all of these showers following. A lot of downpours out there, some lively showers, and merging to give longer spells of rain. Hail and thunder for Northern Ireland, parts of northeast England, for example. But in between the showers, feeling a little warmer, temperatures reaching 18 or 19 Celsius in some of the brighter spots in some parts of the UK, largely avoiding the showers like southeast England and the northwest. But certainly for Scotland, it's looking like a very showery picture as we go through the afternoon and into the evening. Plenty of these downpours moving across the country. They'll be slow moving for eastern parts of Northern Ireland, so some large rainfall totals could be an issue for the evening rush hour. And then these showers across England and Wales, not affecting everyone. Parts of the Midlands, like I say, the southeast, mostly avoiding the bulk of the showers. But then there'll be further spells of rain moving through overnight, so some more persistent spells of rain for parts of Northern England and Scotland for a time before, by dawn, it's less wet, and certainly in the south it's a lot drier. Temperatures staying up in the teens in places, however, so a much milder night compared with recent nights. And we start off Wednesday with a lot of cloud cover. Extensive low clouds, some hill fog in places. The cloud does lift and break. Further showers come along, especially for northern England into Northern Ireland, much of Scotland. Further south, a bit drier, certainly compared with Tuesday, and feeling much warmer.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 18 minutes to 12. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
Well, surprise, surprise, Britain now has the highest property tax burden of any major economy in the Western world after a series of tax rises under the last Tory shower and the current Labour government.
Well, new figures show that more than £100 billion was raised for the Treasury last year through property taxes, including business rates, council tax and stamp duty.
We're going to talk to economics editor at The Spectator, Michael Simmons. Michael, good morning. The tax burden on this country, wherever you turn, it is just absolutely crippling. And Mrs Thatcher used to proudly talk about us being a property-owning democracy. And look at the debts now people are saddled with in terms of housing and offices and the like.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the problem is, this is the latest example of how our politicians and the people who are making economic decisions in this country are not thinking at all about the second-order effects. I mean, you guys talk loads on GB News about the burden of things that need to be paid for, you know, whether it's the welfare bill, whatever it is. So governments find themselves not wanting to cut tax. They need to raise revenue, and they think, what taxes can I raise without annoying most voters? And they go for property because, you know, our government seems to not like landlords. It seems to not like business owners very much. And then that gets them this money in. The problem is they then don't think of the knock-on effects, which is you end up, you know, you're paying so much tax to keep the pub that you own or the shop that you own running that it becomes unaffordable to run it, or you have to put the prices up so much. And kind of worse than that, people that would build in this country, would invest in this country, think there's just no point because I'm going to be taxed so much. And then you get the government saying, oh, well, you know, we don't really understand why there's no growth. All the wealth is being sucked out of the economy. Well, yes, it's being sucked out of the economy by HMRC.
It also affects ordinary residents as well as business owners, doesn't it? Because stamp duty land tax is now such a huge chunk of the moving costs that people are very reticent to move unless they really, really have to. What kind of impact does that kind of tax have on the property market?
Yeah. I mean, stamp duty is the worst tax we have in Britain. I can't think of anything worse. We should abolish it tomorrow because, as you say, it completely disincentivizes moving. It disincentivizes, you know, maybe older people that decide their family have moved out. Maybe I want to downsize and sort of cash in on my house. And then they're stuck with this massive tax. So people don't move. That clogs up the housing market. But again, I think the government kind of might be aware of that. I mean, there was some talk that the Treasury wanted to do something about it until the Angela Rayner scandal kind of made it politically untouchable for them. But they then don't think about the second order effect, which is how it affects the jobs market. It means people are not, you know, mid-career people, later career people are not prepared to move around the country or relocate for work because there's just this massive burden in the way of them. It really is our most harmful tax.
It is a commitment of the Tories to get rid of it. I don't know why they don't talk about it day and night because it would be an incredibly popular policy.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, as I say, we were going towards a position where I think the government were looking at it. And actually what you might see is the government's hands being forced to look at it again, because if the Tories could get some cut through and, as you say, hammer that policy home, if, let's say, Reform joined in on it, so you had two opposition parties really backing this policy, then home buyers might think, well, hold on a minute, if there's any chance that any of these people form the next government and get to scrap stamp duty, then they might hold off in doing any transaction in the property market, at which point the Treasury would be forced to intervene and say, whether we want to do this or not, we can't really wait till the next election. We need to at least soften stamp duty if we're not going to abolish it. I mean, it should be a popular policy. It's an insanely sensible policy.
Michael Simmons, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Michael Simmons, who's the economics editor at The Spectator. And I was reading this morning, Andrew, that even the OBR say that for every 1% you put on stamp duty, you have a decline of 3.5% of property transactions.
It's just so obvious. It's that old Laffer curve thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
The more tax you take, the less revenue you get because it stifles economic
And you want
activity.
people to be able to move as often as they need to for jobs, to upsize,
They get a new
downsize.
sink, they buy a new bathroom, a new kitchen, new carpet. It's obvious. It's such good, important for the local community.
If they scrapped it tomorrow, I think you'd see a massive boom in the housing market.
Yeah, and the government may even then reach its target of 1.5 million houses.
They would. They probably would. And they'd probably see revenue increase because suddenly you'd have jobs created, people then paying more income tax. You wouldn't lose any money.
And some of those young people, we might find work for them. Now, there's a statement from the government which says, I can get my glass somewhere in.
Oh, really? We have the right economic plan. We're backing the high street by reforming business rates with a £4.3 billion support package to limit bill rises, capping corporation tax at 25%, cutting red tape and taking action to cut the cost of living to boost the sector.
And if you recall, Labour, when they were in opposition, were going to abolish the business rate and replace it. That was when Rachel Reeves was Shadow Chancellor. What happened to that?
That's right. Only the US and Korea have higher rates of property tax than we do.
Shocking.
We are a world leader, not in a good way.
Now, up next, find out how much Brussels would charge Britain to rejoin the EU.
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun and you want to go to the EU, here's the forecast for some top destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, you heading away for the next few days? Well, there's high pressure dominating for the Canary Islands as well as Spain and France. So plenty of sunshine here for the next few days. Temperatures climbing towards 20 degrees across much of Portugal and Spain. Some showers affecting Italy as well as parts of Greece through the latter part of this week. Could turn quite heavy actually across parts of Greece. There's a risk of thunderstorms through Thursday and Friday. But for most of us, plenty of sunshine. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
I got scammed over a period of about 18 months. I met the family. I actually met my scammer, met the family, friends. They were all part of the scam.
Did you get a sense, Lynn, that you were being scammed? And if you did, when did that happen?
Not until I went to the police. It took a long time. I think I was groomed over a period of months. So anything he said, I believed. It's very hard to explain how these people can get into your head. You know, only anyone that's been scammed will ever understand. You know.
Mm. And how helpful were police when you first went to them?
Police didn't really want to know, if I'm honest. They said, just forget about it. I said, no. I said, I'm not forgetting about it. I said, you've stolen my money. I said, I want my money back. I said, I said, I'll go and do something myself. But at the time, I was just so, I don't know what I would have done. Anyway, they changed their minds and we set up a sting with them over a 3-month period.
Wow. How much money had this man taken from you, Lynn?
About £100,000.
Gosh.
Over the period of 18 months.
Yeah.
And what would he be saying to you in order to get that money from you?
In fact, I offered him money 8 months into it because I believed that I'd lost something. I was made to believe that I've lost something, so I was offering him money, and he refused at first. And then it just got into I was chasing the money back, and it just one thing after another. It just led on to another.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. Lots of people have been getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. This is on the youth unemployment and the role of graduates. One person says, what's the point of getting a Mickey Mouse degree, getting yourself £50,000 in debt, no way to start your life? Get a trade. You'll probably earn more money than most people with a degree anyway, and a degree won't help you if everyone else has one. They're devalued. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Well, apprenticeships were a noble profession when I was leaving school. Lots of people. My brother did an apprenticeship at 16 at British Rail. I don't think he's ever been out of work.
Wow, that's amazing. But that's the time to start it, isn't it? When you're 15, 16, instead of going all the way through school and university.
I know.
I think we should lower the school leaving age. I think that would be
I don't know why they raised it to 18 in the first place.
No, I know. The rumour was that Tony Blair increased the targets for university just to keep young people off the unemployment figures. Who knows if that's true? It's kind of backfired.
So that's it. I think the writs have now been moved, the by-elections.
Yes, poor Tom won't be able to speak about it, but he is up next with Emily for Good Afternoon Britain, and we'll be back tomorrow for Britain's Newsroom at 9:30. See you then.
Well, that's the whole show down the pan. Jonathan Reynolds, the Chief Whip, has just moved the writ in the House of Commons, meaning this by-election is likely to be on the 18th of June, though we don't know that for sure yet. He said moments ago, I beg to move the Speaker do issue this warrant to the Clerk of the House of the Crown to make the new writ for electing a Member of Parliament to serve in Parliament for the borough constituency of Makerfield.
And will you miss the vape shop, the mini-mart, the dodgy barber on your high street, Tom? Because they could be long gone. The government is cracking down. Let's see what happens.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Another day of showers today. Still pretty fresh, but warmer than yesterday. There is a risk of thunderstorms this afternoon, particularly across eastern areas of the UK. Now, this band of rain from overnight pushes into more northeastern areas. So it's going to be quite a damp day for the far north and east of Scotland. Behind that, it turns clearer for a time, but also plenty of showers will develop. Some of these quite heavy, bringing a risk of thunder as well as hail, so please keep an eye on them. You likely want some sort of cover if you're heading out. But it's going to be a little bit of a warmer day, temperatures climbing to the higher teens for most of us. That upward trend in the temperatures continues through the rest of this week, but for the time being, this evening still looks pretty damp, particularly across north and eastern areas where these showers will continue through the rush hour and through the early parts of the evening. Plenty of showers still across parts of Northern Ireland. It will turn a little bit drier for some central areas, but there's still a risk of some showery rain across the southwest, some quite brisk southwesterly winds as well. They continue through the night, so it's going to be a relatively mild night overnight. Plenty of cloud around, showers pushing in from the south and west into longer spells of rain. It's not going to be quite as heavy, the rain overnight. There'll be quite a lot of cloud around and some rain on and off through the night. So it does make for a mild night. Temperatures 10, 11, 12 degrees by the time you wake up on Wednesday morning. So pretty mild start to the day. A little bit of a drier day to come on Wednesday as well. We're starting to see higher pressure building in for more southern areas. We'll continue to see further wet weather pushing in from more north and western areas. But as you can see here, the showers are nowhere near as heavy on Wednesday. So I think for most of us, we should see a little bit more sunshine and dry weather. And as a result, temperatures a touch higher, touching 20 degrees in the south and east. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge.